Alright, so now we're ready to start building with our coils. Remember, you have three different options on how you're going to do your base. You can either do it with the slab, you can make your base out of pinch pots, or you can make your base, I didn't show you how to do this one, but you've already seen how to do the wheel, at least somewhat. You can throw a base for it as well. And you can either work with it still on the turntable, or you can go ahead and cut it off. This is still a little too wet. If I can still touch it and get a bunch of clay on my fingers, it's too wet to work with. So I could hair dry that a little bit to get it ready. I'm going to actually get started with the piece that's the slab. So I'm going to use a turntable. If it's too big for my turntable base, I can put that on a bat or one of the laminated pieces of wood, whichever way works easier for me. But I am going to use it on a turntable. I'm putting paper towel under there just so it doesn't stick. I'm going to score that top edge, and I'm going to use a little bit of slip on there as well. Just a little bit. People tend to get overly connected to their slip and they get way too much on there, and it weakens the surface, and you'll think that you've really blended, but you've really just put kind of a skim coat on, and it'll cause you some problems. If your clay is pretty soft, you need very, very little. So you can see I don't have very much slip on there, just a tiny bit. Then I've extruded some coils, and I'm just going to set my coil right on that top edge. That one was a little bit short. I just wanted to use up some bits and pieces. But I could have easily just used a full coil. Probably would have been better, but I had just a couple few little scrap pieces. Now when I come to the end there, I'm going to overlap it, and then I'm going to cut through both and remove the excess, and then it's going to come right together there. Then I'm going to use just the back of my finger. I'm going to blend the inside in. You can use, go the other way. I just find it easier to use the back of my finger, and I'm just pressing down with my fingernail. You don't have to have long nails for this. You could also use a wooden tool. There's some that are called sculptor's thumbs that you can kind of use those instead. I find it more difficult to go that direction, and then I would come through and I'd smooth that. It's pretty soft, but I still want to smooth that. I don't want my walls to get too thin. I can kind of compress that, push that down a little bit if I need to. Now while it's still small, I could pick this up and blend if I wanted to. But one way or the other, I want to blend the outside. I don't want to just fill that up with slip. I want to really blend the clay together from the bottom to the top. I want to blend, 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 blend. Now on some of this demo, I'm going to kind of pretend that I've blended just for time's sake. So I could clean that up a little bit more too, but for time's sake I'm going to keep going. Okay, so again, I've extruded my coil so I can go pretty quickly. If I want my wall to go straight up and down, I put my coil right on top of the coil below. If I want it to come in, I bring my coil to the inside of the wall below. If I want it to come out, I want it to come to the outside of the coil. Makes sense when you think about it. And then blend, and that in and out part does not have to be on the same level. Part of the wall can come out, part of the wall can go in. I can also put it on there and then adjust a little bit. But if I'm blending on the outside, I need to make sure that I'm holding on the inside and vice versa. Otherwise, the shape of the pot will kind of take over. So while I've started this on my slab pot, I can do exactly the same thing on either the wheel pot or the pinch pot, and I just start building on that top edge. I would still probably score and slip just that first one, and anytime it seems like it's getting just a little bit too dry. If it's really getting too dry, you have to soften the coil below, because remember, clay shrinks as it dries, and if it's dried very much, it'll seem like it's bonded, and then it'll come apart later, or at least crack, and then you'll be unhappy. So again, you want to blend that. And then you just keep going. On this assignment, you do not have to have your coils show. I could do a continuous, I can just keep going. I don't have to stop and start on every row, but I do need to think about blending inside there. I want to make sure that I'm blending all of my coils on this particular assignment, probably inside and outside. So don't go too far before you come back and blend. Maybe every two, then come back and blend everything. If you wait too long, it's too hard to get inside, and you're going to have some struggle. So you want to make sure that you're being consistent about that. Okay, now if I want, let's say I wanted to make this so it's got multiple openings, I could start to actually close that off by pressing that in, and I can add kind of a little bridge there and blend everything on the outside and inside, and then just start building those individual sections. So I have lots of options on this one. You do want to make sure you have a plan. My big plan was to show you that you could do that, so I didn't have a very good aesthetic plan. Pretend that I blended everything on the inside. I want to show you how you can clean up the outside on these pieces once I blend the rest of that outside. So that's pretty rough, and I don't want to leave it like that probably. You could actually be really precise on how you're blending that and create a texture on purpose there. I didn't. But you could. Now I can take a paddle and I can kind of reform that a little bit. There's the regular paddles, or there's also these are actually throwing sticks to reach inside a pot when you're at the wheel. But they also work really well as small paddles. If your clay is really soft and sticky, you may have some struggles. You may need to let that dry just a little bit. But you can kind of reform it and compress that wall a little bit. Depending on who you talk to, it's not really compression. But we're going to go with that. And then I'm also going to use my serrated rib, that jagged rib. Okay, remember that's very, very sharp. And I'm going to use my credit cards. I'm going to use those back and forth. And this is going to seem counterintuitive. I'm going to take that serrated rib and I'm going to blend different directions with that. And even though my purpose is to make the wall smooth, I realize I'm actually adding a lot of texture, but I'm creating these ridges that will blend off the high points and push them into the low points. And then when I come back with my credit card, it's going to make it really nice and smooth. So this helps me to refine that shape and bring those hills down. Then I'm going to take my credit card, I'm kind of curving that a little bit. You can also use the smooth side of the metal scraper. I don't like that as much. I like to use the credit cards more. And then, again, I have to go different directions. But then that starts to really get that nice and smooth. Some of it you just have to get into with your fingers, though, because the credit card may be too difficult to get into that shape. You see that starts to really smooth it out. Okay, your fingers can do the same thing. You want to make sure that you don't neglect the very bottom. You may need to come back for that. But then you just keep building until you get the form constructed as you're wanting to make it. So that's pretty much it.